So what we just did is we flowcharted this pseudocode. This is pseudocode for getting a list of scores from the user and calculating the average. And this is for the benefit of the camera, which I didn't have going. You can pause this and look at it if you're watching a video. We initialize the list, we initialize a score. While that score is greater than 0, we ask them for a new score. And if it's greater than 0, we add it to the list. If it was less than 0, it would drop out of the while loop. Then we initialize a total so that we can start adding things to it. And for every item in the score, for every S in score list, we add that to the total. Then we calculate our average. Then we print it out. And then we drew the flowchart for it. Here's what the flowchart looks like. Same thing. Okay. All right, now we're going to do the password one. I almost feel like asking you all to do the password one yourself.
What should we name this one?
Good question. I'm going to do file save as and call it scores and password. So somewhere else on your flowchart, go ahead and do the password. It's actually, maybe it's only a little bit more complicated. I'm not sure if I would even consider it more complicated. However, if you were not writing this, then it's going to be a problem for you. So maybe I can lower the size of the font just a little bit. Okay, there's our code. Go ahead and try to make a flowchart from it. Just remember, get password from user is going to be in a tilted box. The prints are going to be in tilted boxes. Nothing else will be. So I'm going to wander around now. So we had a while. And it did something. And then off the while, we had a math block, some kind. Then underneath that, we had an if. If something, do something. Like that. And then all that needs to do is you could either hook it up to a circle if you wanted to, or you could just make it hook up directly to another if. These aren't even if-elses, they're just ifs. So like that. Then you could do your second if. And if that if is true, we had something else, another process. We added something else to it. And I am going to put a circle on this one just because that'll make drawing the line back up to the while statement easier. Oh, there was one more thing though. There was an I++. Add one to I. So we had one more block here. And then it went back up to the while. Like that.
In the while loop, you have the CH equals password of I. That just goes in the data block, right?
Right. Well, no, it goes in a rectangle because we're not typing in anything at that point. We've already typed it all in, so it's going to be in a
Predefined.
not the predefined, just a plain rectangle.
Okay.
And then the next thing I probably need to help y'all with is the if-else ifs. You may have already done them. You may have already done a great job on them. There's more than one way to do them, but I'll show y'all a way. So does that make sense? The if does not loop back up to itself. It just goes in the next box, the next unindented statement. So here's how we do the else ifs, or the elifs. Now that we're down, whoopsie, come back. I'm going to say that I'm down here. If the blah, 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 then print something. If that's not true, else if blah, 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 then do something. And if that's not true, that's the time when you actually do your real honest to goodness else, which is one more printing. Oops, that should have been in a tilted box because it's another print statement. And underneath that, it'd be easier to hook them all up if I had a circle. If you want to, you could change the word no to else when you're dealing with if blocks. You could go back in, and only on if blocks, change that to an else, and change that to an else, if you want. Don't have to. If you do it that way, you could take the word else out of the if statement here. But if you want to leave the word else in there as well, that's also totally okay, especially because in Python we use elif, a single word. And these guys have to hook back up down to that circle. They don't do the same thing that the other if statements were doing. They don't go back to that if because they're mutually exclusive. We are either only going to do that one or that one or that one. We can't do this one and then come back down and do this one and then do this one. When you have else ifs, we're only picking one way to go through it. Whereas up here, multiple things could happen. Maybe it was, if it's a letter, add one to letters, and then if it's an uppercase letter, add one to the uppers. So we did them in sequence. These are sequential ifs. If something's true, come back down here and then do it again. If something else is true, come back down here and do something again. We don't have the word else here, so we're not trying to imply that this is going to be an else if. So each one of these is not mutually exclusive. We can do all of those individually. That one might be true and that one might be true. So we just stacked them like that. But when we got down to the else's, we had to flowchart them a little bit differently. We had to make them all just go to one common end.
But since we have two if statements, we can just make them both go to a terminal and loop it back up, or a connector, like a circuit block.
There's always more than one way to draw it, but I'd have to kind of see how you were doing it if you want to show me.
Okay, so like say this. Am I right so far?
Yeah, that's totally cool.
And then
This one has to have a line going back up to the next if statement. Because you can't have a dead end. So there's got to be a line coming out of that block.
going to the next one?
Right, because it's not an else if. Nope, that would make it a loop.
Oh, okay.
So make it go, you can even hook it up to the top of that maybe. I don't know if that would, yeah.
And then
Like that.
Okay.
If it was an else if, it'd have to kind of go out to the side.
And for this one, since this is the last one,
You might just hook it back up to a circle underneath it and then make them circle go back up like that. So back to the while loop, like that. I'm just trying to get it all on one little thing now. And so on. Hope that makes sense. Ifs without elses look like that. They just keep bouncing back. Ifs with elses have to swoop off to the side.
So after you've done all that, does the circle lit back, like go back to the while loop, or does it just go to like the stop?
This bottom one just is going to go to a stop because it's not part of the while loop.
So whenever it's the while, and then right after the while is the if else's, so does the while just connect straight to that top if?
Yeah, this end of while up here, I should have hooked it up to my next
Okay,
if,
okay.
like that. All right, is it okay if I cover this text up? If anybody needs a printout of it, I can print it out for you.
Can you print it out?
Yeah, sure. How many copies of the pseudocode? 1, 2. I'll make 3. Alright, now I'm going to try to draw it for reals. Did you need the pseudocode or you don't? Okay, you're cool with it. Alright. That loop is wild. Get rid of that.
you can make them all straight. I don't know, I kinda like it straight. The only thing I don't like is the, like, see how it kind of cut across this one. I guess straight is easier, just to see it.
I think the curves are okay sometimes. Probably not all over the place.
So what's the option line used for?
Which one?
The option line, like if you go like from the end of that while statement that you have and draw a line from where a line already is, it says option on it instead.
Oh, really? Show me. I guess because you drew 3 lines and it doesn't like the third line. The while loop should only have a yes and a no. Yeah, you had a yes and a no, and then you had another line coming from it. It got confused.
So I did.
Yeah. All right, so here's how I started mine. I'll be right back to you. Start, get password from user. Then I initialize those 3 values. When you're setting things to 0, that's the only time I like or think it's okay to put them in the same block. Then I have a while loop. CH is equal to the that password. Sure. And then if CH was equal to a space, however I worded it, don't remember, then spaces equals space plus 1. I'm shortening that to spaces plus equals 1. Then we add another if block if CH is uppercase. Then we made uppers equals uppers plus 1. Then we added 1 to I. I is equal to I plus 1. And it went back to the top of the while loop. Then I had my if statements. If the length of the password, I guess, did I skip something?
Yeah, if length password.
Yeah, there are 3 if statements. Else if uppers is equal to 0. My mistake. All right, at the end of the pseudocode here, it says else if space is greater than 0, do something, and then it should have said else if uppers is equal to 0, not just plain else uppers is equal to 0. I left out an if right there. So if the length of the password is less than 8, print an error. Print greater than 8, greater than equal 8, whatever my error message is, I'm abbreviating it. Else if spaces is greater than 0, print no spaces. And you totally know, right, that the position of the blocks isn't that important, so you don't have to go and modify yours to look the same. But I needed one more else if before I was done, because the third one was the number of uppers. If uppers is equal to 0, then we printed an error message. Must have uppers. Wrong shape. All right, we're about done for today. Hope y'all were able to finish this. And then that one went back down there as well. And then lastly, we just need a stop at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. You're not going to be able to read my text, but hopefully the shape will make sense. Generally, your shape ought to look like that.
So like the flowchart of this program, it's not really, like say it doesn't meet, like say someone does put a space in it, and you just have to go down there to stop, so it's not really giving them another chance.
Yeah, we didn't put it inside of a great big while loop like our program actually did. We left that out of the pseudocode. All right, I'm going to make a Dropbox for this. I hope y'all had time to complete it before you bail. If not, I understand. So this will be in class 16, flowcharts. Flowcharts for scores and password. Just do a download as and give me the PDF. And you asked for help and I haven't been back there. I apologize. Coming right now.
It's not letting me